Now, we know that Norwich has a great reputation for creating writers. It's a UNESCO City of Literature, of course, and down the years, thousands of students have flocked to the University of East Anglia, hoping to write the next great novel. It's a fantastic place for creative writing, it really is. But one UEA graduate thinks he may have set a new record for the longest time between leaving the university and getting a novel published. Architecture for Beginners by Robert Cohen has just been released, and he's been telling our producer Paul Hayes more about it.
I came to UEA in the early 80s to study drama, ended up switching to English literature, and 12 years later going back to drama and becoming a professional actor, but that's rather jumping ahead. But I did to do 3 years at UEA. I feel I didn't really take full advantage of it. I rather feel that I maybe went to university too young. I think I would have taken more advantage of being at the university and being in Norwich, being in Norfolk, etc., etc. But it's probably a mistake a lot of people make. I don't know, going straight from school.
One of the reasons I came to Norwich to go to university is it does have that kind of reputation as a place, kind of almost like a sort of factory where writers are made.
Yes.
Because it had the great reputation with its creative writing courses and just being somewhere where people who want to write go. Did it have that reputation at the time? Was that one of the things that attracted you, or did your desire to write come later on?
The desire, well, I've been writing since I was 16, but more plays than prose. It certainly did have that reputation. Malcolm Bradbury was running the course at the time, and it had already produced Ian McEwan, I believe. And Rose Tremaine was one of the guest teachers at the time. I was taught a little bit by her and also by Malcolm. There was a couple of people who've gone on to some success that I was there with. I was in the room next door in the Waveney Terrace cell block to Glenn Patterson, who's a very successful Irish writer. Simon Scarrow, who does a lot of stuff to do with the ancient Romans and stuff. I was on courses with him, and my friend Keith Temple, who I did drama with, he went on to be a writer for Doctor Who and Emmerdale and various things.
So I now have to ask you the terrible, dreadful question that all authors have to face in these interviews. In your case, about Architecture for Beginners, tell us what it's about.
What's it about? Yes, well, it's you could say it's about architecture and it's about football, but in a way it's about neither of those things, though it's got an architect and a footballer, a retired footballer, at its centre. I'd say it's about friendship more than anything, if I had to boil it down. It's about a sort of slightly toxic friendship between two old school friends who are reunited in middle life. You might say that Alex, who's the architect, who's commissioned by this retired footballer, Reggie, to build a football stadium on his estate, he's drawn in reluctantly to Reggie's kind of slightly odd, slightly Elvis-like world of retired footballdom. But he's also kind of intrigued by it as well, and because he is at a crisis point himself, having been chucked out of his home, and also he's got problems with the people at his architectural practice, he's kind of sucked into Reggie's world. And there's a part of him which is dismayed by this and is in denial that it's happening. There's a part of him which is enjoying essentially being allowed to go back to childhood, basically, in this rather unreal world that Reggie has going on his estate.
We talked about Norwich being such a mecca for writers, but very few of the thousands of people who flocked here down the decades with an interest in writing have actually ended up having a novel published. I mean, it's quite a difficult thing to write a novel, certainly to write one well. I mean, there's that old joke, isn't there, about, oh, you're writing a novel, neither am I.
Yeah.
But so what was it like when you finally had that book printed, published in your hands? You first took it out of the box or handed it and had it as a physical thing?
It was very exciting indeed. indeed. I didn't think it was ever going to happen, to be honest. Certainly with this book, I had submitted it to these publishers, Hobart Books, pretty much thinking, oh, here we go again. Here I am on a hiding to nothing, but I'll have a go. It's been rejected by everyone else, but what the hell? And they loved it. And it was quite a long gestation period even then. But we got there, and it's interesting to note that I suspect that if anyone's keeping records at the University of East Anglia, I may well be the record holder for the graduate who's taken the longest from 1985 to 2023 to actually get a novel published.
Author Robert Cohen talking to Paul Hayes about his debut novel, Architecture for Beginners, out now.